How's everybody doing? My name's Andrew Exler. I'm the founder and chief strategist at Andrew Exler Consulting. I provide social media management to small businesses, nonprofits, and startup organizations. And as well, I like to do a lot of professional development, especially as it relates to my blog, my weekly blog called The Ground Floor. It's a professional development blog trying to get guest contributors, trying to provide as much insight and advice to the young adult community, young professionals. And I'm excited right now to have our first ever video blog being done as an interview rather than a written blog with David Kaplan of WTAE in Pittsburgh. David, how you doing today?
Good, man. It's fitting that you bring on a broadcaster to do your first video blog. I gotta say, it's real fitting and an honor to be here for sure.
Absolutely, and that's why I thought about it. And why not pick the best type of public speaker? Little transparency on this blog. David is also one of my closest friends in Pittsburgh, and as someone who I've always just been watching since he and I got to know each other in his professional world, I've been really hoping to get him on this blog at some point. So excited for David to just introduce yourself a little bit more. Tell us your title, what you do, what your job entails.
Yeah, so I am a general assignment news reporter. You mentioned WTAE. It's the ABC affiliate here in Pittsburgh. I've been here about 5 years now. So I'm a news reporter. I go out, I find stories, I interview people, I put them together and present them usually live on the 5 and 6 o'clock news Monday through Friday every day.
That's great. And David, was this job in Pittsburgh your first job in your career?
It was not. So they always say with broadcast journalism, especially, you really need to start small and work your way up, which is kind of what I did. I got very lucky in a sense that my first job was actually at my home station, which is a kind of medium-sized town in Southwest Virginia, about 35 to 40 minutes away from Virginia Tech. So really the southwest corner of the state. And so I went to college, I graduated, and then I got my first job back home, which was awesome. And then I lived there and worked there for about 3 years and moved to Pittsburgh about 5 years ago. And I've been reporting at the ABC affiliate here ever since.
Awesome. And David, what was your dream job growing up?
So I always tell people that this was one of the biggest blessings in my entire life, was knowing, among many, knowing that this is what I wanted to do, knowing that I wanted to be a broadcast journalist. The path I took was altered a little bit. I always had a big mouth growing up, and I knew I needed to channel it in an effective way. But I thought I wanted to do sports. I was literally, since middle school, I was like, I'm going to be a sports broadcaster. That was my plan. And then I got to college and I realized that there weren't as many men that wanted to do news reporting. And I just realized it was going to be a little bit harder to break through kind of in the sports realm. So I adjusted my plan a little bit kind of freshman year of college. I had a broadcast journalism path, but I also had a political science path. And just learning more about government and, the importance of a robust press really made me interested in pursuing that path. And that was kind of the path I took. So I originally was thinking sports, but then I kind of adjusted to news. And the good thing about being a general assignment news reporter is you really cover absolutely everything. So in such a sports town like Pittsburgh, the Steelers, the Pirates, and the Penguins are big. If something happens with them, they might put a news reporter on it. Unfortunately, the Penguins had a pretty good run, winning 2 straight Stanley Cups when I first got here. So I was covering all the fans and covering some of the games. And so that's been a perk of general assignment reporting, is that I really do get to do a little bit of everything.
That's great. And I can definitely relate. Young people these days, we want them to feel comfortable in understanding that change is going to happen. Where you were when you were 15 is not where you're going to be when you're 19, and so on. And at least being able to really just pivot and be able to continue on that road to success. And talking about sports for a few seconds and transitioning away from the professional development, I know you're a Pittsburgher from Virginia, but tell me about your sports franchises that you love.
I am a very ardent and adamant supporter of the Buffalo Football Club, the Bills, as they're known. No, I grew up in kind of like NFL no man's land, and then I went to college at Syracuse and got converted into a Bills fan. The Syracuse head coach actually went on to become the Buffalo Bills head coach, and I liked him. And then the confluence of all those factors led me to become a very big Bills fan. As a matter of fact, I have on my table here my lunchbox I got to show. So this is my middle school lunchbox that I take to work every day to emphasize my Bills fandom.
I love it. I love it. And watching some Syracuse and Pitt basketball games going back in the day, growing up a Pitt fan, I've got nothing but respect for Syracuse, even though they broke my heart many times.
There you go.
All right. Now coming back. So you knew what you wanted to do and you're still in this area, but if you could go back and tell 18-year-old David Kaplan some advice, what would you tell him?
Yeah, I think my biggest thing, and especially for younger people, I mentioned I was a little bit lucky that I got my first TV job in my hometown. There was some planning that went into that though, and I was glad I did that. And it's one thing that especially when I talk to younger journalists, I counsel them on, and this certainly applies to everyone and everywhere. Think about a career plan. When we're 18 or 19 years old, having that 5 and 10 year plan certainly seems daunting. It seems scary to really want to think back down that road. But if you have a general idea of what you want to do, think about a realistic and ambitious path to get there. So for me personally, some people want to, in my industry, and I did this, you want to graduate and you want to just shoot for the stars. And that's certainly something that you should aspire to. But there's a blessing in making errors. There's a blessing in learning and perfecting what you do and how you get to choose the path that you choose. What I mean by that is chart where you want to go, but chart realistic and good steps in order to get there. So I wasn't going to graduate out of college and get a job in Pittsburgh. I mean, maybe I was good enough as a journalist. And certainly there are people who graduate and get the job of their dreams and get great jobs and kind of hit that but hit that goal. And those are certainly good goals to have. But to be realistic and to be realistic about what your plans are is really, really important. So if I could go back and tell myself something, it would be to better balance the realism versus the ambition. There were some really disappointing moments in my life when I didn't get jobs or I didn't get interviews that I was really hoping for. That said, I'm glad I ended up where I did. I'm glad I had a plan to be in Virginia and make mistakes as a journalist in Virginia. And it led me to this great job that I've found in Pittsburgh that I'm really happy with. So there are disappointments along the way. There are going to be mistakes, but think really critically, I would say, to myself, think really critically about not being disappointed when you don't get the job that you want, or not being disappointed when things don't go the way you had planned them out in your career, but to have that big picture goal and things to aspire to and realistic timeframes to get to them would honestly be kind of my big thing. Set ambitious goals, be disappointed when you don't reach them, if you don't reach them, but don't be so disappointed that it discourages you from the path that you're on.
Great. And the one thing I really took from that is being able to have a plan, and also being okay with failure. I don't know anybody successful who hasn't failed at one point in their life. And the ones who say that they haven't failed are lying most of the time. Yeah. So David, you've been out of college since around 2012, and you've been in the industry. You've been in a few different cities. Would you consider yourself successful right now? Why or why not?
Oh man, I'm my own toughest critic. So for where I am in my life, I'm very happy with the spot that I'm in. It's the nature of being a broadcast journalist that you want to do everything better. We don't need to get into the day-to-day of my life, but one of the key things that I always took away from college was a professor that told me is always work on your work. And, as a journalist, a broadcast journalist, my work every day shows up on the 5 and 6 o'clock news. So I watch it, and invariably every single day there's something I say, I wish I could have done that better. And so that's just baked into my cake, so to speak, that, I think I always want to, do a story better, or wonder, professionally, what could I be doing better? But at this point, I'm really happy with where I'm at. I would call my career a success right now. But to my earlier point, if you were to tell 22-year-old graduate David Kaplan that this is where I would be, I probably wouldn't have said that was a success. That's just my realistic answer. But the fact of the matter is that in my job especially, and in every job, everybody charts their own path, and everybody has a separate path to reach there. Don't think that just because you're not, you don't have the job that you wanted by the age that you wanted, that you're a failure, or that it didn't work out. The fact of the matter is we're young for a really long time, and we have a long time to make, mistakes and understand that what we planned for 8 years ago isn't necessarily where we thought we'd be, and that's okay. You got to be willing. If you have such strict and important plans and you don't reach them, you're going to think you failed. But in actuality, chances are good you're doing fine. If you have a good compass, I think, and if you follow, what your heart says, and where you think you want to be, and whatever. It doesn't mean if you didn't reach all your ultimate goals at a certain age in your life that you're a failure. Did I have goals of being in larger TV markets by age 30? Sure, when I graduated. But I mean, damn, I'm happy here, man. I got a good thing here, and I'm ecstatic about, where my career is right now. So if you would have asked 22-year-old David Kaplan, I would say, oh man, he didn't quite make it to where he wanted to go. But if you were to ask me now, I'd say, yeah, things are going pretty well.
And at the end of the day, happiness is key. Really, there is such a translation. The happier you are, just the better everything around you seems to be. And we'll come back to this conversation in 10 years, and we'll talk about 29, 30-year-old Dave, seeing where he'll be then. So just a few more questions before we wrap up. So on that note of wanting to be successful and trying to get there, what do you do? You're a professional. You're in a great mid-market city where you are on the news. I see you all the time. What are you doing to continue educating yourself and to continue getting better at your job every day?
Yeah, so like I told you earlier, work on your work. It's a principle that applies to absolutely everything. So the work on your work part is the college professor thing I live by. The professional athlete thing that I live by, I went to the same high school as JJ Redick. He's a shooting guard in the NBA, plays for the New Orleans Pelicans. And one of the things he always says is you've never arrived, you're always becoming. And that's another thing that I really, that sticks with me. Professionally, you just never want to have the mentality, the ego that leads you to think, you know what, I made it. Things are good. We're good. Everything should be gravy from this point. No, you should always, regardless of what you do, regardless of you've been doing the same job for 40 years or you just started 4 days ago, never, ever, ever think that I'm done growing. I'm done, getting better, that I've reached my ceiling, because, you can always work on something better. You can always, be, a better teammate, a better, coworker, a better, better at your job. There's always room to grow. And you need to have the mentality that there really is always room to grow and always room for improvement. So, I mean, and that goes to me watching my stories every day. That goes to me writing better, more comprehensive articles for the web. That goes to me being more, responsive and better on social media. For me, there's so many facets and ways that I can really improve what I do. So there's that. The other thing, and this goes with my specific job title, but this can absolutely apply to everything. I want to be good at everything. I want, when we have our meeting in the morning and we're talking about stories and things we should pitch and places we should go and whatever, I always want my bosses to think like that can be a David Kaplan story. Whether it's a school board meeting or whether it's, the proverbial feature of the cat stuck in the tree. I want them to be able to think, okay, we're sending David on it. He's going to do a good job with it, whatever we do. Same mentality, you know, be able, you know, diversify your skill sets as much as possible. Be able to show, you know, hey, we can put, you know, Exler on that. He'll do a good job with that, or so, and, you know, so between that, you know, those two things I mentioned alone, you know, work on your work and be able to work on everything. That should occupy kind of your entire, you know, bandwidth of improving and showing that you can improve. And the other thing, you know, going along with that, just an eagerness to learn. We can never, ever, ever stop, you know, wanting to learn. You know, you and I both play a lot of golf, and, you know, I'm not a great golfer, but you know, the thing I always say about golf is it's frustrating when, you know, you're hitting your driver really well one day and your irons are awful. And then the next day you could hit your driver like garbage and your irons could be good or your putting could be bad. We just have so many facets we can always work on and always work to improve on. And the great golfers are the ones who are able to do everything well. But even the greatest golfer in the world, you know, Tiger Woods wants to be better. Not that he's the greatest golfer in the world right now, but we don't need to get into that. But, you know, it's just being able to diversify what you do, being able to do everything well, and being able to learn and know that your bosses know that you want to learn and get better at all of that.
So great. And I was going to say, Tiger Woods still has a coach, and he's out there learning all the time, but we might have started a big debate now. But if we're putting it out there that he's the best, we might have to see how that goes. All right. So two quick
Best of all time. Best of all time. Maybe not the best right now. I should clarify.
So two quick ones. One, just before you wrap up, what's a fun fact about you? I'm watching you on TV. What is something I wouldn't know about David Kaplan?
Yeah, that's a good one. I've never, I shouldn't say never. I think it's only happened once or twice. Had a cup of hot coffee in my life. It's purely iced. It's never hot. I just don't do hot coffee. And the quick theory behind that, this is so not useful to the people watching this, but if the purpose of drinking coffee is to give you energy and jolt you, in the wintertime, we drink hot chocolate to like soothe us. So it's a soothing, hot beverages are soothing and they're supposed to get you wired. Whereas the cold coffee gives you the jolt that you need, both in the temperature and the energy level. So I'm a very, very big iced coffee believer. I just don't drink hot coffee.
Respect. We might have some conspiracy theorists coming after us now. All right, and so the last one that I've started adding to these, and I know you're actually a great fit for this because I didn't prep you. Tell me a joke.
Oh man. So there was a phase where I I would do a dad joke to a coworker every day and post it on Instagram. Yeah, big fan of dad jokes. So what did the fish say when he swam into the wall?
I have no idea.
Damn. Thank you.
And there we have it.
Thank you so much.
All right, David, this was great. I really appreciate having you on. And I know when this is posted, whoever's watching this, in the link to the blog on andrewexler.com, there will be some access to get to David on LinkedIn and his contact information if you ever want to hear from him. And if you're watching and you're interested in being interviewed or being guest contributor on the ground floor, would love to have you. All the information could be found at andrewexler.com. Again, the link will be included in the bio of this video. And David, really appreciate your time. I'm excited to get on the golf course and maybe we'll record another session then. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. And yeah, I would love to hear from anybody. I'm always happy to talk about, professional development and growth with anybody, professional growth. So feel free to reach out. I'll absolutely get back to anybody who reaches out.
All right. Thanks, David. Have a great day, everybody.